Bueno, primero quiero decir que gracias todas por estar aquí. Estoy muy emocionada por este proyecto, este iniciativo. Yo pienso que es muy importante. Yo soy cubana americana, mis padres inmigraron de Cuba en los noventas y yo soy primera generación en los Estados Unidos y eso ha formado mucho de mi experiencia artística. Um, yo creo que la manera que yo um, como aprovecho, como the way that I approach my art is very informed by the community I grew up in. Even though the art I did growing up did not really fully include my community. So it was actually when I moved to New York City that I got really connected to living playwrights that are Latine. And I also got connected to works from our historical canon. Things that even though I grew up in Florida, in Orlando, Florida, very immigrant, working class, Latina community. Um, the work that we did at that time was very Eurocentric and wasn't really set in. We surprisingly didn't have a lot of bilingual artistic work that I was involved in. And it wasn't until I actually got the Van Leer Fellowship that I directed work in Spanish for the first time. And that felt like it unlocked not only a community within New York City that I was yearning to connect with, but also it unlocked like just deeper parts of me and connection to language, because even though I would consider English to be my more predominant language at the moment, I am fluent in Spanish, but um, that is the first language I learned, and that's the language I connect with my family. And sí, esto fue mi primera obra de Siglo de Oro. Honestamente, yo he trabajado mucho en obras nuevas y en trabajos nuevos, pero yo nunca estaba súper interesada en hacer trabajos de Siglo de Oro, porque yo dije, ay, eso se siente tan antiguo. Uh, y, y para mí, yo me siento más emocionada en trabajar en obras nuevas, pero para el fellowship de Van Leer con repertorio, el segundo año tú tienes que dirigir una obra de Siglo de Oro, y eso fue una de las razones que yo escogí este fellowship, porque yo quería los 2 años, yo escogí dos obras difíciles y también para yo aprender y tener espacio para experimentar artísticamente. Tuve un poco de trabajo en el principio pensando cómo yo puedo aprovechar, cómo yo puedo destacar la obra de Sor Juana, que is such a big, juicy play, but it is very complex. Um, y no sé, yo estaba mirando The Kardashians o algo y estaba leyendo la obra y yo dije, "Ah, the asides son confessionals. I have my concept." Y después de eso ya todo siguió. Um, it was really cool process because I approached it like a new play. And that's what I hear a lot of directors do with classical work. They treat it like a new play, or they treat it like a modern play, right? Because the things that they're talking about then is still true now. There was one line in the play that I remember it was something along the lines of like "Love is Blind." I'm like, oh my god, like that TV show really reminds me of this play to some degree. So I just found a lot of similarities, and it was very exciting to find that. And I could not have done this without my two assistant directors. They were incredible. Us three went through the script multiple times, cutting it down, because the big thing for me, even though I do love the whole play, I really, because it is reality TV, and I wanted to keep it to an hour and a half. And so we made a sufficient amount of cuts, and then a lot of it was in the rehearsal room. You know, I would be watching it. It was also such a unique process because tech was such a large element of this production that like there were still things that didn't fully land or fully make sense, especially for me, I'm so visual, until we got on stage. So there were a lot of things dramaturgically that were like, oh my God, we can do this with the camera. Oh, this room here, you know? So it was a very collaborative process. Because I was wearing a lot of hats. I was producing, I was the dramaturg, you know, like, so of course, if I had a even fuller team, I maybe would have had a little bit more time to maybe show up first rehearsal and be like, this is the full concept, everything's set in stone, this is what we're doing. But I also love the idea of experimentation, and I was very honest. I was very clear with my actors from the beginning and my designers too. So I just really liked that we were able to explore it too and see like, how can we do this? How can we work with the camera? And that made it more exciting. And I think that came across in the presentation. And yeah, I think watching it many times, I was like, okay, if I knew nothing, what do I still not understand? So, you know, those little videos in between, those little recaps, those are things we added to help kind of make up for things that we might have cut or things that we wanted to add to reinforce the world of reality TV.
Me gustó mucho la diversidad que trajiste al escenario y la diversidad también de, aunque se preserva el texto, o sea, el verso, eh, eh, se trae el verso a escena en diferentes acentos.
Sí, sí,
Y eso me pareció bien interesante, ¿no? Porque muchos de nosotros que somos de diferentes países, como somos todas nosotras, ¿no? Nos podemos identificar con por lo menos uno de ellos, ¿no?
sí,
Nuestro acento se parece mucho.
sí, sí, y por eso poniéndolo en una ciudad tan diversa como Miami fue una idea
Miami.
perfecta, y también tiene un aesthetic that's very clear, right?
Ujú,
So, antes, cuando yo empecé trabajando en la obra, yo no tenía idea dónde poner la obra. Yo dije, mejor Nueva York, you know, or whatever. And then we discovered, oh no, it needs to be somewhere like Miami, where there's just a whole bunch of different Latinos. There's
ujú,
very big personalities, you know, like it's a
ujú,
very, everything kind of had the opportunity to be very bold.
ujú.
And I think that was very great, a very strong choice for us in bringing a classical piece to life.
Ya, y yo creo que es una realidad que se ve mucho en los Estados Unidos, ¿no?
Sí,
Que hay diversidad latina y de todas partes, o sea, casi nunca te vas a
ajá,
encontrar con una comunidad latina homogénea que sea solamente de, am,
exacto.
o sea, especialmente cuando estás entre amigos, no estoy hablando de familia. Entonces eso me pareció que funcionó muy bien al nivel de conectar con la comunidad, ¿no? Y esa cuestión de accesibilidad que estaba
These
hablando.
actors were all from different places, you know, like that diversity was very important to me. And I let, you know, like for example, Don Pedro Najib, who played him, he's Dominican. So sometimes he pronounced things like a Dominican would. And I said, yeah, do that, you know, as long as we get the clarity in diction, feel free to make it your own. And so it was balancing between how can we maintain the language and the verse, but also allowing some room to break it because it is modern. So it was a very organic process, and I'm sure that some purists were like, "Oh my God, they broke it! They did this!" But from the very beginning, I never set out to do a traditionally classical to the T play of this that you would see at like another theater. Yo pienso que el video, bueno, el video en en todas las maneras que lo usamos, fue muy beneficial para crear intimidad. Por ejemplo, todos los asides de confessionals eran grabados antes y usamos a propósito a very close-up shot a lot of times, right? Like if we wanted to feel intimate, we wanted to feel like they were in a smaller room. Y también con el video en vivo era para crear la idea que el público puede ver algo que a lo mejor los actores no pueden ver, o para crear intimidad con un actor que está hablando un monólogo muy personal o un deseo que ellos quieren, que ellos tienen muy grande. Así que la cámara también ayudó en guiar el público en qué mirar y en qué detalles para tener y entender la historia. Y también para crear momentos de comedia, como por ejemplo, entra la mamá y la cámara está en ella, pero se ven los hombres abajo, delante del sofá, escondidos. Es como creando otro nivel de detalle y también como jugando con campiness, of reality TV. Um, sí, la música, the sound designer y yo queríamos tener música que era como like leaning into the campiness, right? Like it has like a really big beat. It feels like Miami. It feels like reality TV, redundant. There's a sense of like it's fun, it's lighthearted, right? So yeah, the Carol G was just something the sound designer picked and it was just really fun. Y el momento de aventura fue algo que descubrimos en grupo, que fue súper divertido. Uh, yo sabía antes de empezar que yo quería esa escena que I wanted that scene to be like the traditional, like reality TV, everybody's drunk, telling the truth, like things are getting messy. Pero cantando karaoke fue algo que descubrimos y no sé, fue algo muy divertido y después me dio la idea, vamos a poner, let's put the lyrics on the frame. So era como cada, piece by piece, we put together this, one of my favorite moments in the play. Y era también una manera para incorporar el momento de la canción que pasa en la obra original. Y yo dije, ¿cuál es una manera moderna para incorporar esto? Y the lyrics of Obsession and what the song was trying to say back in the day just felt really relevant. So it was just something fun, and I think it helped further develop their characters as well. Que tenga una idea, un concepto como director muy fuerte, porque con un texto clásico, tú tienes que, you need to be very specific in the work you do. And I think that's any play, right? But like with classical work, there is the additional skill set of language, right? Of heightened language. And how do we make that clear? How do we make that accessible? And I think when you have a very strong concept as a director, and I think classical plays lend themselves to that because it actually allows directors to show their directorial vision and autonomy, right, on a piece. It elevates the piece. It actually helps unlock things of the piece that feel in support of the concept you've created. Nosotros por el Van Leer hicimos un workshop con un director y él hace muchas obras de siglo de oro y él nos explicó que tú tienes que tener una idea y el resto tiene que caer abajo de esa idea y tiene que apoyar esa idea. Tú puedes hacer Sor Juana los empeños en la casa muchas diferentes maneras. Tú puedes hacer Doña Ana muy diferente a la Doña Ana mía, porque a lo mejor en el concepto tuyo, Doña Ana está apoyando un concepto más grande, muy diferente al mío, so you need to make sure every single choice you're making and reimagining a classical piece is in support of that higher vision, right?